When it comes to body horror movies, we all kinda know the greats. Of course, the subgenre is practically synonymous with the name Cronenberg, and while a lot of the installments in this genre over the years have been a little bit derivative of the classics in it, there are some that have stood out for being just plain old weird. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and these are the 8 weirdest body horror movies you've probably never seen. Number 8, RABID. While you might have heard of the David Cronenberg original version of RABID, the 2019 remake has no right to be as good as it is. Helmed by the Soska sisters, this retelling follows a woman named Rose, who slowly begins transforming into something more than human after undergoing experimental surgery. And taken on its own merits anyway, RABID is a gruesome and bloodthirsty body horror movie that manages to transcend the body horror of just one person and exact it on a whole load of people by the time the credits roll. And with that in mind, though it starts off pretty standard, RABID shows far greater ambition as the stakes continue to rise, all the while delivering some screensaver-worthy horror imagery along the way. The finale in particular is spectacular, while actress Laura Vandervoort is brilliant as the troubled woman at the center of what quickly becomes all-out carnage. Oh, and CM Punk and AJ Lee are in the movie as well for some reason, if any of you are over from the What Culture Wrestling channel. Number 7, The Beach House. Liana Liberato is one of those excellent underrated actors who just makes anything she's in that little bit better, as evident earlier this year when she starred as Quinn in Scream 6 in an absolutely stunning scene-stealing performance. And hopefully her inclusion in that movie will finally get her the recognition that she deserves. But before all of that, she starred in the cult hit classic The Beach House. Now this is a spooky Lovecraftian body horror flick about a cosmic horror disease birthed from the ocean. And caught in the middle of all of this are our protagonists, Emily and Randall, who are just trying to have a nice little holiday together. That sea, man, I never trusted it. Decimating the nearby town, the infection spreads quickly, causing gross transformations and wince-inducing injuries. Think those horrible bits in the movie The Ruins where you can see the vines crawling beneath the skin of the characters, and you're probably along the right lines for at least some of this. Or maybe the wrong lines, I guess, because that stuff was horrible. Though there's only 4 characters in the whole movie, that allows the beach house to match its focus on bodily transformation with pure existential dread and isolation. Yeah, it's not one to be missed. Number 6, Possession. Definitely the most infamous and most popular movie on this list, Possession is still worth including because while many people have indeed heard of it, far fewer have actually sat down to watch it front to back. Now, what is this movie? Well, the poster for the flick kinda tells you all you need to know about the film's content, as it shows a naked woman with snakes for hair, and the snakes are attacking her. So yeah, as you can imagine, this is definitely the most sexually charged body horror movie we've had on this list so far. Using the framing of this subgenre to tell a story about divorce and fractured identities, the separation of married couple Anna and Mark leads to a terrifying chain of events involving their young son, some doppelgangers, and a stupid, sexy, tentacled creature. Possession is bloody, gory, horrifying, and strange all at once, with enough misdirects to leave you wondering if any of the events are actually even happening. It is definitely challenging, but also well worth the watch. Number 5, Spring. Small Italian villages, weird octopus women, and Mount Vesuvius all come together in the deeply weird Venn diagram that can only be 2014 Spring. Framed as a romance between Evan and Louise, Spring takes a turn for the bizarre when it's revealed that Louise isn't a regular old person, but rather a 2,000-year-old mutant that must impregnate herself every 2 decades to remain immortal. Yeah, I know you've probably been on some weird dates in your life, but I reckon that takes the cake. Directed by cult favourites Justin Benson and Aaron Moorehead, Spring works because of the conviction of its central romance, with the horror element serving to deliver a dramatic story of these 2 unlikely lovers who, in spite of their terrifying differences, you do want to see come out on top. It's not exactly what you could describe necessarily as elevated horror, but it is one of those horror movies that you go into expecting a few scares, but end up being enraptured by the central drama and romance over the actual frights. So just know that going in, but still, it's a great movie. Think The Shape of Water by way of Before Sunset, and again, you're probably on the right lines. Number 4, May. An SEO nightmare, as May 2002 just brings up things that happened in that month in that year. This movie stars Angela Bettis as a disgruntled young woman with a difficult past. After trying to make friends with people her entire life, the titular character finally starts to form some connections later on, even romantic ones. But, of course, despite being a hugely sympathetic character in her own right, May has more than a few secrets of her own, as she slips further and further into madness. And while it is, yeah, kind of a tender story at its heart in a way, May is definitely a body horror movie, and one that will turn your stomach with its high levels of blood and guts. The film's climax in particular is especially gnarly, but honestly, the character's true motivations and potential, let's just say, is best left unspoiled and experiencing fresh. Just know you might come to regret that sympathy that you extended initially. Number 3, Starry Eyes. Alex Essoe has been seen in a bunch of different horror projects over the years, most recently in the absolutely deranged movie The Pope's Exorcist, which I definitely recommend, by the way. I have no idea what the hell they were smoking when they were making that. But the movie that put her on the map was the deeply disturbing 2014 flick Starry Eyes, a body horror movie that also serves as a larger allegory for the dark side of the movie industry. Starry Eyes has Essoe take on the role of an aspiring actress named Sarah, who gets called back to an audition after a producer sees her ripping out her own hair and generally acting a little bit distressed and a little bit on edge. And this minor act of self-mutilation in the grand scheme of things quickly spirals into a full-on metamorphosis when it's revealed that the casting agency isn't just a casting agency, but actually a front for a demonic cult. With that description in mind, as you can probably guess, the movie is a little bit on the nose with its metaphors, but it's still a great, terrifying flick nonetheless, ironically anchored by its own star-making performance. Number 2, American Mary. We're back to the Soska sisters with this one, and once again, a character who's more likely to dish out the body horror to others rather than endure it herself. Now, having a main character of a body horror movie also be a surgeon pretty much writes itself, but American Mary does not waste 1 ounce of the potential from that premise. The titular character performs black market surgeries, which primarily concern off-the-books body modifications and plastic surgery, and as you might expect, they only become more elaborate and dangerous as the movie goes on. And for the squeamish amongst you, including myself by the way, I hate anything medical in movies, it's gonna get a lot. It's gonna be a lot. And as the movie goes on and as Mary starts to target people she perceives to be a threat, the violence only escalates. Now, as you might expect, it can be a tough watch, not only because of the explicit nature of the sequences, but also because of Mary's own backstory and themes of sexual abuse. So it's important to know that going in. But American Mary is one of the cult favorites of the 2010s, and it definitely lives up to that reputation. Number 1, Begotten. It's kind of hard to even describe what 1989's Begotten even is. We know that it was directed by E. Elias Merridge, we know that it's in black and white, we know that there's virtually no dialogue at all in it, but apart from that, it's kind of well open to interpretation. A quick look at the Wikipedia page will tell you that it opens with a god that gives birth to Mother Nature and then kills himself, but while you can scour the film for meaning, piecing together its themes and impressionistic narrative steeped in religious undertones, resurrections, and betrayals, it's more about, and I'm sorry to say this, but it's more about the vibes. Like, it's funny, I remember the first time I kind of heard about this movie and I sat down to watch it, and I was just thinking, for the first 10 minutes or so, what is this? What am I looking at? I knew I was scared, but I had no idea what was going on until later on, and then when I was checking online, it's It's a lot, put it that way. But it works because Begotten looks like a cursed videotape, with its grainy, harsh black and white imagery managing to be scarier than most big budget horror movies today. The opening in particular is absolutely unforgettable in just how disturbing and violent it is, as this character writhes around cutting open his own stomach and pulling out his own insides. This little freak here, this guy, it's haunted my nightmares for so long. But it weirdly works. If the movie was just a short film of this sequence, it probably still would be remembered and talked about today, but unfortunately for you, it keeps going. And look, I don't blame anyone for not watching this movie or if they can't get into it. Like I said, I know I definitely had troubles with it initially, but there is one thing for certain. It is effective at what it sets out to do, and like I said, you won't be forgetting it anytime soon for better or worse. So that's our list. Want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Have you seen any of these body horror movies and what did you think? And are there any other weird ones that we didn't include today? Let me know. And while you're down there, if you could, please give us a like, share, subscribe, and head over to What Culture Horror for more lists like this on the regular. Even if you don't, though, I've been Josh, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. That's what I missed off. I knew there was something.